ready to roll.
I had a feeling. Deborah, it's wonderful to meet you. Thank you so much for taking a minute out today.
Thank you for having me.
You bet. So I want to begin our story. I always begin it the same way because it was such a big moment with COVID. It's something that changed the entire planet and it changed our lives. How did you get through that era? And how has it influenced your writing or the way that you live life today in 2025?
Well, I was kind of going through my own trauma during that time because I turned 70 in January of uh of that year in 2020, and it's the first time I put color in my hair, and I've had it ever since.
Yeah.
And ready to go, ready to publish, my four books that I've got written, but this one in particular, this has been my passion project for many, many years, like 17 years. And I ended up getting an infection from a knee replacement revision. And I've been fighting it ever since. So I've had like six surgeries, da da da, all of that.
Wow.
But the reason that I didn't really have as much problem coping, two reasons. One is I'm used to being here with a lot of quiet in my home, which gives me the opportunity to do my creative work. I'm an artist as well as a writer. And
Okay.
so that didn't bother me. Um, but the other thing is that my writing, I mean, I was sitting in the ER with my computer on my lap doing editing on my book. It just fills me with such joy to be working in this field. And and so it was like I felt bad for everybody else, and I didn't like the fact that I was struggling with medical issues, but I didn't really have problems. So,
Yeah. Well,
yeah,
I think there was a lot of people that it just kind of fell into what they were already doing, or
yes,
people embraced the quiet. But yeah, I mean,
yeah,
it was a very interesting time. And of all the times that I ask about COVID, I very rarely get just how horrible it was. I mean, there was things that
yeah,
may have happened, but overall,
right,
it was a good time of pause. So let me
right.
ask you this: if I was to explain your career at a career day with a bunch of kids in a elementary school, 12-year-olds, and one of them wanted to know what you do for a living, how would you explain it to them?
I just live my joy. It's not so much of a living as living my joy. And creativity is really important to me, being in nature and having my animals around. Uh, One of my favorite things to do, which I write about in several of my books, is breathing with a horse. There's nothing like that experience. But in terms of writing, I'm an unlikely writer. I had was not from a home that had books in it, and I had vision problems that made reading very difficult for me. So I've had to really work at becoming a literary citizen. So I would tell those kids, whatever you love doing, whatever you be curious. I guess that's the biggest advice I would give them for following their joy or whatever. It's just be curious.
Yeah. Don't lose that wander wonder kind of thing
Yes.
because it happens when people get older. They put fences up and say they can't do it. So you didn't grow up around books or reading, but what about art? Did you grow up around that, or is all of the
No,
cre so all of this came in your life? So what did you want to be when you were a kid? What was your dream job?
I wanted to have horses in the backyard.
Okay, okay. Did you grow up
I
with
didn't.
horses?
No, no,
Wow.
no. Oh, no. Oh, no. We had to really work at learning horses. I did ride a little bit in Australia, and that was it's in my book, and it's kind of a real disaster. It turns out really, really tragically. But um, and I every time I'd borrow a horse, I ended up get injured. I fractured my back when I was 17,
Wow.
and and then I wasn't around horses for quite a few years. And then finally in 1989, I got a horse again, and we had it in our backyard, and um, we started getting rescue mares and breeding them and having babies, and
Wow.
we've had horses in our backyard ever since.
So take me back to your childhood. Exactly where were you born and raised, and what do you think the seeds that were planted into you that gave you this feeling to be creative, this curiosity about life and delving into it? What do you think? How do you think that was put in you?
I had a very interesting family. My father was bigger than life. He had challenges, part of why we moved so much. My mom, he was an aerospace, not an aerospace, automotive engineer, my dad.
Okay.
And my mom gave up theater when she got married and had kids, but she was always very much theatrical. And she always told me, you can do anything you want to do. But I was pretty much a latchkey kid. I was on my own. My
Yeah.
brothers were older, and so I didn't have transportation. And so, I had to find my way. Um, but I think it's that curiosity that I got from, and my dad was a storyteller, an amazing storyteller. And he lived the stories. So that's why I have so much material. It's like, how can I not write these stories? I'm the last one alive. They're all gone. And there's stories with all of that. And I'm the keeper of the stories. So that's why I write.
So when you did start really reading in earnest, who was your favorite author? What was one of your favorite books?
Um, when I started writing about my story, what I was recommended to read was Glass Castle by Jeanette Walls
Okay.
because it was such a connection to me. Mary Carr was another one. But then, I love going back to the classics of The Horse Whisperer because that's, again, the life I live, right?
Yeah.
And it's very familiar. Um, in literature, let's see, I tend to go towards memoirs because that's what I write. And one of my favorite authors, who I didn't know about years ago, but I do now, is Abigail Thomas.
Okay.
She wrote Still Life at 80. She's in her 80s and still writing and on Substack. She's a hoot.
That's great.
And she wrote Three Dog Night, which was a pretty big book.
Yeah.
And people like Danny Shapiro. Um, yeah.
Wonderful. What about art? I mean, you have a very distinct way of approaching the easel and artwork. Who were inspirations? Who did you really like?
Well, I mean, I love the Impressionists and the Post-Impressionists, of course. My brother was also an artist for a number of years, and he really was into the more contemporary work. Um, and he passed, and as a result of Agent Orange exposure in Vietnam. And so I have to like pick up the go with him to be the artist because he never really accomplished what he wanted to. Um, but artists, I started off being a clay artist. I'm a ceramicist. I've got 2 degrees in it. And for my MFA at UCLA, I built a circular room covered on the inside with ceramic tiles, 246 of them, and high relief. And my inspiration for that was Jean Shinoda Bolen's book, Goddesses in Every Woman. So, and also Black Elk Speak. So it's the spiritual leaders and stuff that inspire, and the natural world and my horses that inspire my art. But I'm very kinesthetic. So now I'm not working in clay anymore. It's just too difficult for me.
Yeah.
And although I miss it terribly.
Yeah.
But so I'm working in the most fragile way of working, which is watercolor.
But it's one of the most dynamic ways. Like I used to feel like I didn't really get watercolors till I dove into it, but the way that
Mhm.
colors can bleed and blend and the way they have a life of their own, it's really
Oh,
something that's seen as very simplistic, but it's one of the more powerful mediums you can get involved with.
Right. Plus, you can do layers upon layers upon
Yes.
layers.
Yeah.
Yeah, as long as you're delicate at doing
Yeah.
it. I like to overdo and then pull back.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
but clay is like that too. It's very, it's like, the kiln gods, right? You
Yeah.
put work so hard on this piece and you could put it in there and it could move, change, blow up. I mean, you never know what's going to come out.
That's for sure. So overall, who's been that hero for you, that inspirational force that's allowed you to find your creativity and find your place in the world?
I've had some wonderful teachers, and they're not big, fancy names. They're the people that have been in my life teaching me. Like Allison K. Williams is an amazing writing teacher, and she wrote seven drafts, and she's just really helped me so much. And then Jenny Nash, I learned to be a book coach from her, but I was basically going there to learn to write and to work with her book coaches. And it just worked out that I ended up being a book coach. So, because I love working with women and helping them tell their stories. So, these real people, these everyday people, are the ones that continue to inspire me. Jane Friedman's another one. She's the guru of anything online or publishing or whatever.
Yeah.
She worked for Writer's Digest for a number of years, was the publisher for their online media. And yeah, they're my heroes.
So when you finally decided that you wanted to write, what was the moment? What was the absolute inspiration that allowed you to get to that point to do it?
Well, I actually always wanted to write, but I moved around too much to be able to do it. And I just didn't have the stability until I met my husband and we moved here. Moved in the same place 30 years, right? After moving so much.
Yeah.
But I actually was on a a bus going from LA to Santa Barbara to see my brother for the last time. He was dying. And I was sitting next to a writer and I was telling him about where I was going, what I was doing, a little bit about my story. And he says, "Have you thought about writing that?" And I went, "Oh, yes, I definitely need to write his story." And he goes, "You really should." And I sat next to a writer. Who would have thought?
Yeah.
So I started writing it immediately that weekend, and that notebook got lost. But the idea of writing it stayed with me. And of course, journaling and everything. I didn't actually start seriously writing until 2008, when, quite frankly, I didn't have the money to pay for all the art supplies I needed. I was doing art quilting at the time. So I thought, oh, writing won't cost much.
Yeah.
That's hilarious,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, exactly.
But I just went out and said, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm finally going to write this story. And I'm a long writer. I sit down and it just flows out of me.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I love it. So, what is the motivation for you every day to wake up, to create, to do the work that you do? And obviously, in the process, there's a lot of self-reflective moments. There's a lot of evolution that goes into it and taking care of yourself. What is that ultimate energy every day to do all of this at the highest possible level?
Well, my father was a perfectionist, and so I always have to do everything at the highest possible level that I can do. So that's just, no question. Me waking up and doing it, I actually read or listen to a book or read my own work before I go to sleep at night because I tend to dream my stories. So I wake up ready to write. So all I have to do is get rid of the distraction and I'm writing. Um, and because I have all these stories to tell and I just don't want them to not get told.
Yeah. Yeah. So the one thing about writing or even creating artwork is in this world of documentaries and we get a portal into people's worlds, it's not something that you see that often, the creative process. So my question to you is this. If you could hang around an artist or a writer and just kind of watch the way they create, the way they incubate their thoughts, the way they actually put it on paper, who would you love to see that creates work that you love?
I think Abigail Thomas.
Yeah.
because she talks about sitting in a cabin and watching the bugs and gets this life lesson out of that, out of these everyday little things. And I would love to just have a conversation with her as much as anything.
So have you ever done it on typewriter? Do you do it on computer? How do you create? How do you
I have done it. I write on pads. Right now, I mostly do it into the computer,
Okay.
but then I'll often print it out and then edit on paper.
Okay.
And I've always got pads everywhere I'm at. Everywhere
Gotcha.
I have something so I can write down my ideas. But
Gotcha.
I find I lose things if I don't put them into the notes app on my phone.
Yeah, me
And
too.
that's so easy.
Yeah,
So,
certainly is. So let me ask you this. If you were to run into the 18-year-old version of you, and you could give that young version of you ready to go out into the world to do it, you could give that version a piece of advice based on this life that you've chosen, the decisions you've made, the wisdom you've accumulated. What advice would you impart? What would you tell that young version of you?
to believe in herself and to find her teachers and to just persevere,
Yeah.
to just, you know, this determination that I have found since I've settled down. Um, it shocks myself. Actually, I've always been determined. I just never knew it. My friends tell me
Yeah.
that's what your whole book's about, Deborah.
Yeah.
But I didn't know that at that age. I was really a lost girl.
So you moved around a lot. You've seen a lot of places. What was one of the most unexpectedly, magically wonderful places that you were at that just stuck in your memory?
Oh, there's been so many. Um, you know, watching the condors in the mountains north of LA. Another one that really comes to mind is I would wander around Melbourne, Australia, and I found this park, and it was on the side of this river where they were having all these boat races. And kind of hidden amongst all the bush were these ponds where these um, black black swans were swimming.
Wow.
And I just stood there and just took it in. And I can just in my memory, I can be in that place in a second. It was just so magical.
There was a time period there where I was totally enamored with the condor because coming from Kansas City, you don't see anything like that. Are they endangered? I thought they were,
They were like extinct, they thought.
yeah,
And my brother was hanging out with some people that they were the ones that kind of discovered them again and started reporting them. There was a bunch of people doing it in California.
yeah,
But yeah, so they had a cabin up, up where they're having all the fires.
yeah, yeah.
But they would just spend all their time just watching for the birds, the
Wow.
beautiful, amazing. I mean, there's always hawks. There's red-tailed hawks around here that are lovely to watch.
Yeah.
And there's nothing better than sitting on your porch at night and hearing the hooting of an owl.
Oh yeah, I used to have one in my neighborhood. We moved in January 2020, and last year I remember I think it was around this time. It was right around we were getting ready to go into the fall. I was leaving a parking lot. We were at a thrift store or something. Everybody, there was a whole group of people, just spots of people. They were just all looking up in the sky, and I was like, "What's going on?" And I got out of my car and I looked up, and there was a couple of bald eagles up there, and people you just don't
Ooh.
see them that often, so people were just looking at them. So. But at any rate, let me ask you this. If you were to walk into a room of people that know you as a creative, that've known you like working with you and know you in like a specific sense, and you could tell them a fun story about your life, like you just said about like seeing the birds or, just maybe the first concert you went to or the first painting you sold or the first time you saw that twinkle in someone's eyes when they really got your writing. What would be a story along those lines you could tell that room?
Okay, I'll see if I can make this short for
Okay.
you. I told you about that ceramic room that I put up.
Yeah.
Well, it was temporary at the White Art Gallery at UCLA campus,
Yeah.
and all the grads had their own little space. So I couldn't like cement in these tiles that were stacked on each other 8 foot tall, right? And they're like 16 inches squared, stacked up. So I was using industrial Velcro and I tested it. But unfortunately, I made the tiles a little heavier, deeper, carving and such. And we got it all up and everything was perfect. And we're all standing outside waiting for them to open the doors to the gallery so we could all go in with our family and friends to see everything. And the gallery guy comes out and pulls me out of the crowd. He goes, "We got a problem." He grabs me and one of the panels had collapsed and shattered all over the floor, and a
Oh no.
couple of more were starting to, and they put wood in front of it. And it's like, oh my God,
Oh
no,
no.
they'll never see it. And, I'm never gonna have my MFA and just, all of that.
Yeah.
So my instructor ended up saying, yeah, I think it's safe enough. We'll let people in as long as it's supported and it's not risky. And they just kind of pushed the things up against the wall. And so I'm out there talking to people on the outside and handing them these little invitations with the explanation of each of the 13 figures that I had put up on these walls. Out of Goddesses and Every Woman and Black Elk Speaks, so 4 horses, right? And this woman comes out and she says, "Come here, come here, come here." And I go, "What?" And she goes, "You did that on purpose, right?" And I went, and she goes, "That's the horse of death and transformation. I feel like I'm in archaeological dig. It is fabulous."
That's wonderful. I mean, that's the thing about life is that when you really break down all of these stories that we take in, truth is always stranger than fiction. The
Yeah,
serendipity, right? Of how things
yeah,
work. It's
yeah.
wild. So, of all of these things that you've done and all of the travels that you've had and the journey you've been on, what are you ultimately the proudest of?
Mm, boy, that's a tough one. Um, I guess recently, I have to go recently. Um, I not only published my book, my memoir, I did all of the interior and cover design, but knowing me, I kind of, go big or go home. I am planning another book on horses that I'm doing watercolors on. And I thought, oh, well, why don't I like do a show, an art show to have my opening for and have my book release, right? So I had to get all my artwork from the back that was in the book. How I Became an Artist is in my memoir, Don't Swell the Fire Burns. And and then a whole series of like 20 new horse watercolors. And talk about the stress of like, right, releasing a book and
Yeah,
then having this show. And I was so not really proud, but gratified
yeah,
that so many people came out and stayed for the whole program. I had other speakers there. And it was such a wonderful night. It like flew by.
yeah.
And it will stay in my memory forever.
Yeah, that's wonderful. So at the end of the day, everyone has an idea of who they think you are, or perception of you. Your family, your friends, everybody that gets your books, your artwork, and knows you as a creative, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
I'm still a lost girl in some degree that has found home, and I am grounded by the environment around me, and I breathe with my horses, and I have a cat in my lap that sleeps. He's 20 years old,
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
so he lives in my lap.
Yeah,
And it's like those small moments um, that nurture the creativity in me. It all flows from that.
yeah,
And yeah, so just, just surviving all
yeah.
that I've survived and being here and loving life and still creating.
I love it. So if anybody wants to get your books, your artwork, ask questions, reach out, any of the good business, where's the best place to go?
Well, Amazon for my book,
Okay.
Dance While the Fire Burns. And for everything else, they can go to my website. It's my name, DeborahAnnLucas.com. And Yeah, everything. I'm also the Leaf River writer. So if you want to find me online anywhere, because I couldn't get my name to start with. So I live in Leaf River and I'm a writer. So I'm the
Okay.
Leaf River writer.
Right
That
on.
pretty well covers everything.
Okay, I will put those links in the show notes. Deborah, this has been absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much for your story.
Thank you,
Thank you for your
Joe.
time. Best of luck. I appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye.